I'm Michael Drives, and this is the 2024 Acura ZDX Type S in Snowfall Pearl. Not only is this Acura's first all-electric SUV, it's the most powerful SUV Acura has ever built. Now, the front-wheel drive A-Spec starts out at $64,500, and then you can move up to the all-wheel drive A-Spec or this all-wheel drive Type S. And this Type S starts at $73,500, and you can actually have a summer tire performance package, and it only bumps up the price to $74,500. This Type S model does not have the summer performance tires, so it starts at $73,500. This Snowfall Pearl paint job is $600, and that brings it to a total as tested price of $74,450, and that includes destination and handling. I will note that all ZDX fully qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit at this time. Let's talk about power for a second. This ZDX Type S trim is the most powerful version. It comes in at 500 horsepower and 544 pound-feet of torque. As far as 0 to 60 time, Car and Driver says it'll do 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. Other sporty driving elements of this ZDX include a multi-link front and rear suspension, a near 50-50 weight distribution, an air suspension with adaptive dampers, and Brembo 6-piston brakes on the front. This Type S will do 278 miles on a full charge, and that's a combination of city and highway driving according to the EPA. If you want the range leader for the ZDX, that would be the front-wheel drive A-Spec, which will get you in about 313 miles out of a full charge. Now, the efficiency on the ZDX, the EPA estimates 78 miles per gallon equivalent. While that's better than a few miles, it's on the lower end of the spectrum. Other manufacturers just seem to get more miles out of that size of a battery. Now, if you want a DC fast charge your ZDX, you can do that in a matter of about 42 minutes from 20 to 80%. If you park at home and you do a full level 2 charge in your garage from empty, it'll take about 9.5 hours. So plug in at night and the next morning you should be fully charged from your level 2 charger. Acura interestingly includes several charging options that come with the price of the car. So if you buy or lease the car, you can have a combination of 3 different charging packages. One is a fully installed level 2 charger that you would put in your garage and some charging credits. Or you can opt for the level 1, level 2 mobile charger, and that's going to give you some more charging credits. Or if you already have a level 2 charger at home or a mobile charger, you can opt for DC fast charging credits only, and that would be a much higher amount of credits. As far as safety is concerned, IHS has not tested the car yet, but NHTSA gives it a 5-star overall rating. For advanced driver's assistance features, the ZDX offers Acura Watch 360 Plus, which is unique to the Type S because that will also give you hands-free cruise driving, and I think that's what sets the Type S apart from the A-Spec models, and it would be a huge help if you're doing a lot of road trips, just daily driving, anything on an access-controlled road, and that's mapped over 400,000 miles of roads in the US, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the drive portion. But in addition to that, in the 360 Plus Acura Watch, you also get a surround view camera. You will get rear pedestrian detection, and you will get automatic parking assist. Acura does have a great warranty on the ZDX for 4 years and 50,000 miles, bumper to bumper, and then the battery warranty, of course, is 8 years and 100,000 miles. In addition to that, you'll get 8 years of EV connected access. Looking at the design of the ZDX, I wanted to turn on the lights here so that you can see what is unique to this Type S. And you've got this awesome, so around the Pentagon grille here, you've got this LED signature lighting design. And then you have these chicane driving lights and the jewel eye headlights, all LED, of course. Now, the ZDX stands 7 inches off the ground, so you have 7 inches of ground clearance in this car. Other things that you'll notice down here, there are active dampers down in the grille. You probably can't see them, but this helps with aerodynamics and airflow, and a lot of the design was optimized for aerodynamics. They're actually functional, moving air around the car, cooling the brakes to give it good aerodynamic efficiency. As we continue to look at the design of the ZDX, you'll notice again these 22-inch wheels. They're really huge, and I believe they are the biggest wheels ever on an Acura SUV. Coming down in here, you can see these really gorgeous Brembo brake calipers. Again, they're 6-piston and they're 16.5 inches in the front and 13.5 inches in the rear. Again, you've got 7 inches of ground clearance along the bottom, and while you cannot see it, this does have the adaptive air suspension. So when you flip into sport mode, it's actually going to drop the car 15 millimeters, and then in normal mode, it'll rise it back up to not subtract those 15 millimeters. If you go into snow mode, it'll actually lift the car up 25 additional millimeters. So you've got 40 millimeters of travel in the suspension, and lifting it for snow, of course, is going to get you over any snow bumps or ice chunks or anything that may be in the way for safer driving. Coming around here, this is where you have the CCS charge port. Now, they haven't moved to a full NACS port yet. You do have the CCS combo, but it is compatible with Tesla supercharging stations that do have the CCS connector already built into the supercharger station. An adapter at some point will be available, hopefully, that you can connect all of these to a NACS charger if you want to. But for right now, you've got the CCS combo charger there. And then you've got Type S badging here on the charge port door. Of course, you have turn signals integrated into the rear mirrors. And then this really unique design that's going to come all the way over here to the side, that you can see how it's separated. The entire top section is black. And then, of course, body color down here. And it's going to be silver down here on the Type S. The A-Spec appearance package is slightly different. One thing you can note, if you see one of these with all black wheels, it's most likely going to be that summer performance package that's going to have summer performance tires. I know it comes in a all black rim. These are not the summer performance tires, so they're all season, and that saves you actually $1,000. But then again, if you wanted to get the summer performance tires, $1,000 is a pretty good deal to opt for that package if you live somewhere where it's warm all the time. Now, back here at the rear of the ZDX, you'll notice that there is an integrated spoiler up here on top. Of course, you do have a rear wiper, and then there are the, of course, chicane rear brake lights and tail lights here. And then you have Type S badging here. This says ZDX. There's an E to denote that it's an electric car. That's Honda's kind of E. It's on this Acura, and then an all-wheel drive badge. And down here, you do have very functional aerodynamics that were specifically designed to make the car slip through the air better. So I'm going to reach under here and pop the hatch open so we can take a look at the cargo area. Now, you'll notice right away how spacious this is. We do have 2 LED lights on each side, which is really nice to eliminate your cargo. They are pretty darn bright. And then you've got some hooks for cargo nets and whatnot. And then inside here, you also have some switches to release the seats if you need to fold them down from the rear. So I can just hit the button over here on the side and it's gonna drop that seat, or I can hit the other one. It'll drop both seats. Oh, that did not release all the way. There we go. Had to hold it down for one more second. Now it's flat all the way through to the front driver and passenger seat. And there's a ton of cargo space in this car. And I did want to show you, if you do lift up this lever here, what sort of space you have underneath. So there is just enough room for a few items under here, a little bit of storage, but not too much, of course, because that's taken up by the powertrain and the battery. Now, to open the hood, we got to go inside the car and pull on the lever 2 times. There are 2 X's on the switch there, or lever, I should say. I pull that 2 times. Now I don't have to fumble for a latch underneath the hood. All I need to do is just lift it up. And it's held up by these struts. As you can see, there is no frunk under the hood. There's no storage here whatsoever. In fact, everything is covered by this giant panel of plastic. So they're just hiding all the pipes and hoses and wires and electronic components. But you do have access to your brake fluid and your windshield washer fluid. And that's about all you need access to. If you wanted to charge the 12-volt battery, you can do that from under here. Otherwise, pretty much keep it closed and let your Acura dealer take care of anything under the hood. So I'm gonna give that a close. Let's go inside the car and check out the interior. Welcome to the interior of the ZDX. The first thing you'll probably notice in here is this red interior. Now, ZDX Type S can come in 3 different interior colors. You can have ebony, which is all black. You can have this red, and then you can also have what's called oyster, which is kind of a very, very, very light tan. I mean, it's almost white. It's kind of a creamy white. I would love to try that. That just feels luxurious, but the red feels very sporty, so I don't mind that at all. Now, all the metal that you see in here is real aluminum. It's real chrome, and Acura is quick to point that out. There's no fake stuff in here, but it's really nice. It's very sporty, and you have additional stitching on the dash here. It's important to note that these sport seats, they're 16-way adjustable on the driver's side, and they are heated and ventilated. Now, this is the first Acura car with Bang & Olufsen audio, which is super cool because it has this acoustic lens technology. You don't see up here like the normal mesh screen like you would on a speaker, but it actually has these acoustic lenses, and the audio system in this car sounds fantastic. It is 18 speakers, and one of those is a subwoofer that is in the back, and it just sounds crisp and clear and kind of brings a whole new dimension to your audio. Let's jump around into the driver's seat so you can see from the point of view. I want to take you through a few menus and screens so that you can see how the infotainment works and a few of the other features that are on the car. Welcome to the driver's seat of the ZDX. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is turn the car on. So I'm going to put the brake down and hit this little button right down here, and that's going to fire it up. It's also going to give me an ice warning because if you have seen me outside, it is pretty darn cold. One of the first things I want to bring your attention to is this crisp 11-inch screen. And another cool thing about this screen is it's a little bit configurable to where I can flip and actually have the display look like that. And then I can hit it again and I'm going to get the Google Maps because this has Google built in. So now you can see that the map, which would be in the navigation, is directly there in the screen. And if I hit that again, I'm going to go back to the screen where it shows the driver assistance features. Now, jumping over here, you have an 11.3-inch screen that is the full infotainment, and this is a touch screen. So I can get to any of the things that I need to. This is the home button, which is going to bring me to this screen where I have a lot of options. And then I can go to the audio, or I can go to maps. This is a very crisp screen, and it's easy to use these big buttons. I will say they don't look very fancy, but they're very purposeful. Now, one of the unique things that you'll notice if you're in a ZDX is that there is no light switch down here. There are a lot of switches, but there's no control for the lights. There's no physical button, and that's because the light control is inside the screen here. You would just hit this button up here. It's set to auto, and that's all you really need to do most of the time is just leave it in auto and let it automatically do that. Speaking of, next to that button, there is a pedal, and this sets the one pedal driving. So that activates it, and then I can choose from off, normal, or high. And of course, that checkbox shows it on the home screen. So those are two quick access things. If you need to access some other controls, you can just hit this button here, and you can access your head-up display. This car does have a head-up display in the Type S, and then some quick access to your dome light. So there's no button up here for the dome light. You've got your map light buttons, but you're actually going to access that down here. If you want to see your 360 camera, you can see that, which is really helpful with parking. And then you can actually access your parking assist through that to let the car fully parallel park for you, which is really cool. So jumping back out of here, of course, you've got automatic high beams, and with that turned on, it's going to automatically turn on when it needs to. Like I said, this is the first iteration of an Acura with Google built in, and what that means is not only do you have the Google Maps, but you have Google Assistant and you have Google apps that are available. So if I want to use Google Assistant, I'm just going to hit this button here or say, "Hey Google, navigate me to Cleveland, Ohio." I didn't even have to push the button, and this is how fast it is. It's loading the route, and it'll actually tell me how much it's going to cost with tolls and how many charging stops I'm going to need to make. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you'll see it takes 7 hours and 29 minutes to get to Cleveland from where we are here in Washington, D.C., and it's going to show me those charging stops along the way. And I can adjust and modify those if I need to, if I wanted to remove the charging, and if I knew where I needed to charge and I wasn't going to listen to the car, I could do that. But it'll tell me, hey, you need to stop over here at this station for 30 minutes, you need to stop at this station and charge for 42 minutes, and it's all here in the navigation. That is as close to Tesla as I have. I mean, it matches Tesla, and it's so useful. It is overly cautious. I have been able to stretch it out a little bit more because I knew I could go a little bit further. Speaking of, this car, while currently, on my state of battery charge, I have 201 miles left. It will actually, if you drive gingerly, that will increase and you'll be able to get to your destination even if it's 200 miles away. You'll actually notice that range not eaten into, and it'll go further than it actually says. So it under promises and over delivers, and I do like that a lot. Now below this 11.3-inch infotainment screen, of course, you've got full physical buttons for your climate control. Very nice. However, what's not so nice is depending on, and if I move the camera around a little bit, that would be ideal where I could see that auto button, but you'll notice you can't see what any of these buttons do, or it's really difficult. I don't like the shiny black plastic there because depending on where the sun is and where the shadows are, you can't see half of these buttons all the time, and that's annoying. What is nice though is that you have a physical volume knob up here, and you do have physical knobs down here that are really nice and grippy. If I want to change that temperature for the passenger, I could just do that by dialing that. So that's really nice. If I wanted to shut the whole thing off, it's going to be very quiet and it's going to turn off the climate control system. I'm going to turn those back on. Another cool thing about the steering wheel and the controls on the steering wheel is that, of course, you have the cruise button here, and to turn that on, you would activate the cruise control, and then you're going to hit cruise, and that's going to control the car. This will light up. We'll do that in the drive portion. But I wanted to flip around because if you're listening to the radio, and this is going to be annoying and beep for a second, there are actually controls behind the steering wheel. And this, in this case, will change your channel up and down if you're listening to the radio. This is a paddle shifter to adjust the regen. And then over here on the other side, you have buttons as well, and that will turn the volume up and down. So right hand to change the volume up and down, and left hand to change the channel behind the steering wheel. Really nicely placed. Your fingers just naturally rest there behind there. Back to the center console, you've got two USB-C ports down here, a 12-volt accessory power outlet, and then you do have a wireless charging here, and you can just drop your phone in here, lean it. I have a little trouble with it. It doesn't always make contact and fully charge, which is a little bit frustrating, but it does work most of the time. Maybe it's because my phone is among the older, smaller ones, and a new, larger phone is going to fit in there and be a little bit more secure. Coming down here under the center console, you can see there is a huge storage space that you can put items, if you have a bag or a purse or something like that. And then I just want to zoom in here and show you this grill here for the Bang & Olufsen, and then that acoustic lens, that tweeter in the A-pillar. Pretty cool. There's also ambient lighting. So in the Type S, there's two zones of ambient lighting. There's like an upper and a lower zone, and while you can't see it right now because it's daytime, there's ambient lighting in the doors, in the dash, down here in the console, and then in the footwells as well. If I do take you back to the home screen in here, and say you wanted a Google Assistant to be over here on the left instead of phone, you could just hold down that Google Assistant, drag it to where the phone is, and boom, that's now in the left hand, so that if you're in the home screen and you need to jump to Google Assistant, boom, you can do that. Anyhow, that is configurable, and that's really cool. If I wanted to put the phone back in that slot, I can just do that by dragging the phone over here. And of course, if you're running Apple CarPlay, which I'm not right now because I'm recording, I could take the CarPlay icon, which is right here. Well, actually, I might be able to, can I do that if CarPlay is not? No, CarPlay has to be activated, and then I can slide it over to the left-hand side. Speaking of audio in this car, you also have, while you have these options, and of course your Apple CarPlay, you do not have HD radio, and I don't know why. Maybe that's coming later, but that would be a nice addition. I feel like that's missing. But you do have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Additionally, what's nice about this screen is that there's a bit of a finger rest, or I'd call it a thumb rest. So if you're bouncing around in the car, and sorry to make you dizzy there, but just to demonstrate, you can rest your thumb here and then hit any of one of these buttons, and that's just a little bit easier way to orient your hand on the screen and keep it from bouncing around as you're driving over bumps. Now, if you're driving the car and you want to switch into sport mode, and sport mode's nice because it's not only going to sharpen your steering response and your accelerator response and the braking, but it's going to drop the suspension 15 millimeters and also give you a more sort of growly electronic sound through the speakers. The sport button is nowhere to be seen on the steering wheel or the center console. It's actually tucked way back here among some other switches, which I'm going to show you now. So you've got the electronic parking brake in chrome, which is pretty easy to see. And then next to that, you have the modes where you can switch between sport, normal, snow, etc. And then you've got an auto hold button and a button to keep you in the lane and to give you a lane departure warning. And then this button here will actually adjust the suspension manually, so if you're not doing it tied with a mode, and then of course you have your lights. But if you're driving and you want to switch into sport mode, I've hit like all the wrong buttons when I'm trying to do this because I'm reaching down here. But right now I'm going to hit the correct buttons. So if I want to change my mode, you're going to see this up on the screen, and I can go from sport to, let's see, individual, and I can go to normal, and I can go to snow. Now, individual is pretty cool because you can fine tune all of the different features of individual, such as if you want maybe not sharp steering response, but you want really sharp throttle response and other things, you can individually change those in the car. Now, there's also a button here to adjust the suspension height. So if I want to manually adjust the ride height, I can do that, and when I hit those buttons, it's going to do that. It'll drop it all the way down, and the car is actually sinking as we speak. The vehicle's lowering, or I can just bring that back up to normal for the ride height. Now, if you adjust the sport mode, of course, that's going to automatically adjust the ride height. You just have the option to do it individually. And good luck finding that button while you're driving. I would suggest maybe pulling over unless you have a good, clear view of these switches here, because it's not that easy to see at all. Just looking up here at the moonroof controls, you can control the electric shade this way, and if I just hit that button, you'll now see that the shade is closing, but I can reverse it, open it all the way, and you'll see over the driver and the rear of the car just how far back that glass moonroof goes. If I wanted to tilt it, I could hit this button, and if I wanted to fully open it, I'm just going to hit this button here, and the whole moonroof is going to slide up and over the back. Of course, it's going to open up over the driver's side. It's not going to go all the way back to the car, but that's it fully open. Let me see, is that fully open? Nope, I can go a little bit further. There was like a stop point there. Now it's fully open, but it is a little cold, so we're going to close this up. And let's hop into the rear seat, and I will show you what is back there. Welcome to the rear seat of the ZDX. Now back here, you're gonna notice that there's a ton of legroom. I mean, there's so much legroom in this car. I'm 5'9", but it's really roomy and spacious. This seat is about aligned with the B pillar. You'll just notice how much space is back here. Again, you have nice chrome Bang & Olufsen, surrounds. You've got the sound system. Speakers are everywhere in this car. So if you look up here, there are speakers that are part of the surround sound system of the Bang & Olufsen. They're here, they're in the back in the pillars, connected to the hatch. But another thing that's unique about the ZDX is the tri-zone automatic climate control in the Type S. Now, if you get this A spec, you're not going to get the tri-zone, you'll get dual zone for the front, and that's just going to feed into the back. But here you actually have control, so if I hit the auto button, I'm controlling this automatically, and I can adjust my temperature here. And in the Type S, you get heated outboard rear seats. So I can turn on the seat heater right here, and now I've got seat heating. Another nice thing about all ZDX, they have 2 USB-C ports in the back, but the Type S has a 110 volt outlet here. So I can plug something in here like a laptop if I don't happen to have, a USB-C connector, I have an older laptop or whatever you want to plug in, you can do that down here. And then you can adjust your vents back here as well for the rear seat passengers. Of course, you're going to have a full cup holder here in the center armrest, and so that's nice. Because this is an all EV platform, you have a flat load floor. I'm not sure if you can quite see it, but there is no little bump in the floor mat there, but there is no hump in the middle, so you've got a lot of room for cargo or your passenger's feet, which is nice, especially if someone's going to be sitting in the center position. One final touch here back in the back of the Type S is you do have window shades. Now they're manual, but they're super handy if you're driving in the back and you don't want the sun blaring if you're out somewhere where it's hot. Now let's get behind the wheel of the ZDX and go for a drive. All right, let's do the drive. Now I'm excited for this portion. One of the things that you'll notice right away that I did about this car is how quiet it is. And even when I go into sport mode, which I'm gonna do now, just for fun, because why not? We're in the Type S. I already felt a little kick on in the car when I, just the throttle response is instantly noticeable when you go into sport mode. So we're gonna head out here. And even when driving sporty in this car, it just feels so good. So I'm gonna head out here. We're gonna go this way. Now, switching into sport mode actually enables or activates that full 544 foot-pound of torque. So you don't get that full torque if you're just in normal mode or, of course, snow mode or anything like that, but it does kick in if you switch it into sport mode. So then you have all the power, and then while there is some subtle sounds coming through the audio when you're in normal modes, when you kick it into sport mode, when you flip that switch, you actually get a much more kind of throaty sound of power through the audio system, and it's very subtle and it just sounds really nice. If I bring it all the way down to 0 here, and I'm just gonna hop up to the speed limit, which in here is like 25 miles an hour, but you can just feel how, like it takes your breath away. It is powerful. And so you load this up with 5 people and all their stuff, and you're gonna get some smiles out of people because they're gonna be like, wow, this thing is really, it's an EV, and of course all EVs exhibit this behavior, some more than others, but this one just feels really good. It doesn't feel extremely powerful. And interesting to note too, that these 22-inch wheels don't take a huge dent on the ride quality. Usually there's a compromise there, and Acura's done a really nice job with making the 22-inch wheels just feel like, 19-inch wheels. So the way this car is dampened feels really nice. Now, I don't know that it's justifiable to go all the way up to the Type S trim to really enjoy the ZDX. I think you could get a little bit more range, and maybe the A-Spec would be the model that I went with. While the Type S does have some really cool, unique looks to the design appearance package on the outside, I think you'd be really happy with the A-Spec. However, you cannot get that hands-free driving on the highway with the A-Spec. So that's where you would want to upgrade to the Type S. I think that's the most compelling reason, honestly, to go to the Type S model. Now that I'm on a bit of a highway here, I can turn on cruise control, and I see that the cruise steering wheel has lit up on white on the dash. So now all I need to do is hit the button here on the bottom left of the steering wheel to activate cruise. Now, the light is green, so I've activated hands-free cruise. I hit that button down here on the left after turning the cruise control on. The steering wheel is solid green. That means I can let go of the steering wheel. So I'm going to dismiss that message and let the car do the driving. Now, I still need to pay attention, and to make sure that I pay attention, the car actually has sensors right over the steering wheel. You'll see a little bump on there with like a little dark lens. That's watching my eyes. And if I start to look away, the car is going to get very angry, and the steering wheel will start, the green will start flashing, and there will be a chime, and it will be upset with me. But it's actually pretty darn good. It just knows that I have my eyes open and that I'm looking around, and if it needs my attention, it will get it. But we're going around curves, we're going about 59 miles an hour, and the car is doing all of the driving automatically. It's keeping us in the lane. It is keeping the speed appropriate, and if we come up to a slow car, it's going to slow down. And there's a setting in here that you can actually have it signal and pass the car automatically. Now, I don't have that turned on right now, I believe, so it's just going to do normal driving, but you can drive like this for hours as long as you're on a road that is mapped specifically, and when you know it is, it will be able to activate. It won't activate hands-free won't activate on a road that it is not familiar with. So again, it's got 400,000 miles of roads mapped in the country. Now, if I'm in this hands-free cruise and the steering wheel's green and I want to go a little faster, I can bump up the speed here on the steering wheel and do that and say I want to set it to 61 instead of 59. Well, I can do that, but actually now I'm behind a slow car, so it's keeping the distance, and you can still adjust the distance between, oh, it does not like the slow car, and now it's automatically, it turns the turn signal on, it went into the left lane, and we're now passing the slow van that is on our right side automatically. So I do have that turned on apparently. Now you can turn that off and it won't change lanes for you if you decide that you want in the settings for it not to do that. But it just did that automatically. Sorry, that's the first time I've experienced that, which I think is pretty cool. Now, I think once we pass this car, it may put us back into the right lane once it senses that we're safely far enough in front of that van. Let's see what happens here. We're out of that right now. Let's see if we actually get put into the right lane. Now there's some merging traffic coming up, so I'm curious as to what the car is going to decide it wants to do with the traffic now merging into the right lane. Now it is going to signal and move us over into the right lane, and it did that automatically without a problem. Even though other cars were coming and merging, it knew it had enough space to do that, and we're now in the right lane. So it's not going to pass a car and leave you hanging in the left lane where you shouldn't be driving unless you're passing. It's going to actually move you over. Again, this light is still green. If there was an issue where it wasn't able to drive, it would start flashing green, it would turn blue, or it might turn red and give you a warning. Now, if you fell asleep while this was driving, what the car is going to do is going to flash at you. It's going to chime some warnings, so there'll be an audible warning, and then the car will come to a stop slowly in its lane with the flashers on, and it'll alert OnStar to check on you and to maybe call emergency services if they determine that you're not responsive or something like that. So the car will slowly come down to a full stop in the lane that it's in. So again, this one feature I think is what makes the Type S so compelling, and you can't get this in the A-Spec. You can't get hands-free cruise in the Honda Prologue. You just get it in the Type S, and it's such a great addition. My gosh, if you're taking a long trip, or even if you just have a daily commute on access restricted roads. Again, these are roads where there are on-ramps and off ramps. There are no traffic lights, they're not country roads or city roads. They're access controlled. So I'm going to demonstrate the auto park assist. So I'm going to hit the auto park assist button on the car, and I'm going to drive forward. And it's going to say spot found. Okay, that's great. So it says start by pulling past a parking space. So I'm going to do that, and it found a spot. So now all I have to do, it says to shift into reverse, then take your hands off the wheel and release the brake pedal. So I'm going to hit reverse and take my hands off the brake pedal, and I'm going to signal so that people know I'm parking up. It says backing up, stay alert. So I'm going to stay alert, and the car is backing up between two cars. This is a tight space, so I'm going to modulate my brake pedal just a little bit. It says backing up, stay alert. It's pulling into the spot right now. It's turning the wheel. It's doing this all on its own. I just have my foot on the brake. Now, it's going to go forward a little bit. It's really a tight space, so it is going to wedge in between these two cars. And now it's going to back up a little bit more. I mean, there is not a lot of room for error here. And it's a little jerky still when it hits that. Yeah, I'm keeping my foot on the brake just to modulate it just a little bit. It's driving forward again. It says stay alert. And now it's backing up again. Stay alert. And now, God, it never does that very smoothly. But it is perfectly the correct distance from the curb, and it is a perfect even distance between the car in front and back. I never would have been able to get into this spot on my own. It would have been a nightmare. So letting the car do it is great. I just don't know why it's a little bit smoother. You saw my head like jerking against the headrest. I'm here in the spot. So this demo part is done. Let's hop out of the car and I'll finally talk about my fabulous favorites and not so favorites about the ZDX. And now it's time for my fabulous favorites and not so favorites about the Acura ZDX Type S. Fabulous favorite number one is that performance. Getting 500 horsepower and almost 300 miles of range out of a 5-passenger SUV that can hold a ton of cargo is pretty amazing. What I also like about this performance is how quiet and smooth it is. In fact, the whole car is quiet inside in the cabin. It's really well dampened, it's really well insulated from the road, but yet you still feel pretty sporty and definitely in control. Second fabulous favorite is having cruise available in the car. So going into cruise on the highway and you just hit that button, the steering wheel turns green and you let the car do its driving. You still have to pay attention, of course, and be alert because you're still ultimately responsible for whatever happens, but having the car be able to do that driving is so useful. Fabulous favorite number three is the seat comfort. I just find the seats extremely comfortable in this particular model, and I think you should give it a try. Of course, it's very particular, it's very individual of what you find comfortable, but I found the seats very supportive, not overly firm, just right in all the right ways. Now, my not so favorites about the ZDX, number one, that DC fast charging speed. 190 is pretty good, but the competition is doing a little bit better, or most of it, I should say. And so I think that maybe in the next generation car, Acura could bump that up. My second not so favorite is that it still has a CCS charging port and not the NAX port. Just a small little thing, but it would be nice to have the new generation port already on this car. However, it's not going to affect your charging because this is still compatible with a supercharger station that has the CCS connector. That brings me to the end of this review. Thank you for sticking with me. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you have some thoughts about the ZDX, criticisms, concerns, something that excites you or something that you found that I missed, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about the car or the review, or both. And if you subscribe, you'll get alerted to future videos that I do, and it'll allow me to make more videos. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day and drive safely.